Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be playing with creating some loose portraits in our art journal. So I'm using this transparency from Dina Wakley as a bit of a guide to create a portrait in my journal. And I wanted to put some colour underneath this, but I didn't necessarily want to paint straight on the transparency, which you could certainly do. It takes acrylic paint really well, but I actually wanted to sort of have a bit of a looser portrait underneath. Because it's got the lines on the image itself, it was going to add in the detail later, so I knew I could be pretty loose with this. So using the image I've cut out as a bit of a reference, and you can see me sort of putting it over to see where I want to put some of my colours. So I'm starting off with a sandy colour or apricot, for my face. And then I'm mixing some marine and mineral for my body shape, so I can get this sort of pale blue colour. And I suppose the inspiration for this, with the shape and the face, was kind of, I had the girl with the pearl earring in my head when I was doing it. I'm not sure if I got the colours right or what have you, but that's certainly, when I sort of first looked at that face, that's what popped into my head. So then I decided to go in with some hair, again really loose, and I'm using Sedona for that, so you can sort of see me going in and matching up to see how I've gone with my image. As you can see, it doesn't look very realistic at all, and now by having the Sedona, I'm just going to put in some shading for the face, which again looks really dodgy, but you can see as soon as you put the lines over it, you suddenly get this clarity of what's actually happening. So it's a really great way to practice where things should be on the page, but have that confidence that you're going to overlay something that looks much better over the top. And even if you haven't quite got those shaded areas in the right places, you're going to have the black lines over the top anyway, which will help to bring it all together. I did decide I wanted to put some texture into the body of my figure, doll, whatever you'd like to call it. I'm going in with this new stencil called Curly Tiles. As I had some quite open bits in it, I'm going in with these line stencils as well to fill in the center. So I don't have those big dots. I want to have a little bit more of a patterned go over the top. Finally, to add a little bit of detail into my figures, just like I do in all my painted figures, I'm going in and putting in the whites of the eye. I also decided I want to put in a few little highlights on my transparency, and you can see how much of a difference that makes, particularly on the bottom face, because it kind of blends in a little bit. So by having that little bit of white helps to push it out, so you've got this sort of hidden face down the bottom. I also decided to put in a few highlight lines through the hair and a few extra I say shading lines, they're probably highlight lines, with my white pen. So I'm just drawing directly onto the transparency with the Posca paint pen. Give it a little bit of time to dry. I don't suggest heating the transparencies, or if you do, very quick blast, because it will soften and it will distort slightly. So just be aware of this. Now I made a slight error in judgment here, because I decided to go in with a bit of a Stabilo oil pencil and just give a bit of texture and color underneath, not realizing I then was going to have to cover the entire image with some gel medium to glue the transparency down over the top. So possibly do that afterwards. The Stabilo oil pencil will draw onto the transparency as well. So you can do that afterwards. You will notice, obviously, because it is a transparency, that it's very glary. You can fix that by putting a thin layer of matte medium over the top and letting that dry. That will take the shine off it and help it blend into the rest of the page. Obviously on camera it doesn't look brilliant when I'm videoing it, but in real life, you get that true transparency of color. So for those of you who get really frustrated with the collage tissues because you can still see some whites, obviously with this you're going to get a true transparency. So it sort of swings and roundabouts really. I decided while I like the figure, it was a bit plain on her own, so I wanted to do something to blend it into the background. So I've just put down some gesso I'm going in with some blushing because I wanted that contrast of the against the blue, so she really stood out. I was a little concerned when I first did it that it might blend a little bit too much with her hair, but in actual fact it's got a nice contrast. And I sort of did an ombre type thing where it was much darker on one side and then went off quite light on the other side. You can see me being really careful heating up with the heat gun so I don't distort the transparency. So once I'd put in my background, then I decided I wanted to write a quote on my page because it's me and I like to have a quote on my page in some way, shape or form. So I found this one about imagine if we obsess about the things we like, I think, something like that. Imagine if we obsessed about the things we love about ourselves, which I thought was quite relevant to me at the moment because I'm quite good about obsessing about other things, but not necessarily about myself. When I finished doing that, I decided I wanted to put a height on my page like I do. So grabbing some height washi, I'll be devastated when my height washi runs out because I use it so often on my figures. I also went in and put a little bit of a highlight on my letters. Now this worked on some letters and not so well on others because it was quite white underneath where I was writing, but it did, and you'll see this in the close-up, how it sort of affected some of those letters and helped push it out a little bit from the background. Once I finished that, I then decided that I wanted to put in a little bit of another text onto the page and add some splatter, as I like to do. So firstly, I'm using the this is, again, I don't know if it was from the same release of washi. There was a few releases ages back, like I'm talking years ago, with Dina Wakley, but this little strip of text is "Oh, may your voice be strong and your spirit alive," I think, and I really love it. I make my voice strong and my spirit alive, and I really love that. You can see in the close-up how that transparency is really transparent, obviously, and how those lines stand up against each other when you take the glare off the page. So I hope you have fun with that. Doing loose portraits and having that guide there to help you is really, really helpful, and obviously you could see how I was bringing the piece across just to help guide me where I need to put the paint. Have a go. Until next time, thank you for watching and bye for now.